So the way this system works, at least the way that you understand it, basically what's the general idea with this privacy preserving ad measurement? What do you think a lot of people are misunderstanding about how it works as well?
Well, I think a lot of people think that see it as a way to track you,
Mhm.
and then to track you personally, which is not what this is. This is aggregate metrics. Uh, the best way to explain it that I found is this: let's imagine you have a city where you have an intersection of the corner of street A and B, and you want to know 2 blocks down the line if you had a speed bump at that intersection, are you going to have less accidents at that intersection, right?
Mhm.
So when a car passes through the intersection, it's asking, did you pass through that intersection with speed bump? And it's saying yes or no, but they're not seeing the individual results. The city is only receiving, oh well, there's been one accident which passed through there versus before there was 8. It really is aggregate metrics, and that was a terrible explanation. Now that I've said that, I should
Yeah,
have
I
wrote
was
it
I was
down.
thinking through it. I was following along, but
Yeah.
that wasn't as good as you made it initially sound like.
Yeah, no, yeah. Let's rewind a bit. It's essentially getting like how many people saw one ad that led to a sell.
Mhm.
That's it. It's about an aggregate, a collection of people versus like the individual you, what you have seen and what you have bought.
Mhm.
They're not getting any information about individuals, and there is the way the system is designed. There is an intermediary between the advertisement companies and the client, which is a browser, which is run by a group, the Internet Security Research Group, which are the same people that are running the Let's Encrypt the CA certificate, certificate authority. Sorry. So they're receiving the individual reports. They're not collecting any information about like client IP or anything. It's going through an anonymizing proxy right before. So they're just receiving essentially, oh, well, this ad has been seen, like this ad led to a conversion once.
Mhm.
Then it goes out, gets aggregated when the advertiser is asking for a report. And at the end, they're saying, okay, well, for advertisement X, it led to 10 sales within that period. And that's about it. That's pretty much the only thing that they're receiving.
I think it's also important to note that with the information that even the ISRG are getting, it's fairly limited. Basically, it's the type of interaction with the ad, so whether you viewed it or clicked it, because different ad networks will pay out differently depending on whether it's you follow through or whether you just view it. Sometimes they don't even pay if you just view it. It's the ad itself. So this is the ad campaign it's associated with, where the ad is located. So is it on this website? Is it here? Is it there? Very important information. And that's pretty much the main core of it. Like, it's not, hey, this is being done from a Chrome browser on a Linux system on an AMD CPU, or a lot of other information that you'll see being collected in a lot of these other systems.
Yeah, absolutely. And you were talking about the source and the impression type. They're not technically receiving that information either. They're just asking the client, is that matching one of the reports? And then they're receiving a 1 or a 0, depending if it matches or not.
Okay.
So they can get it based on their collection report, because they can say, I want to have a report of everybody who saw sorry, not everybody, but the number of people who saw ad X on source Y, who clicked it or viewed it. So their report itself is based on that, but they're not technically receiving that information. It's just they're getting a report about that information, which is the slight little distinction here.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. If we just look at the information, go on.
And I think it's important to know that this information is not like, it's pretty much the minimal amount of information they need to run a business, right? Because they're charging their clients based on that. Mm-hmm. So they're not asking what topics are you interested in. They're not collecting that. They're not collecting which sites you're visiting. They literally just want to know if you bought a product, and they're not technically, they don't even know if you like, they just know the amount of people who bought a product. They've seen this ad 10 times, let's say. So 10 people saw the ad and bought a product, and that's really all they're collecting. Mm-hmm. So it's really minimum, like the minimal amount of information they need to run their business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you'll see a lot of people say, okay, but why do they need any information? Why can't they just put an ad campaign out there and just let it go and just see what happens? Like, if it's a successful campaign, they're going to sell products. Why couldn't they just do it with nothing whatsoever?
Because realistically, you're not just saying running one campaign when you're like doing an ad campaign. You're going to have multiple variations. They're going to be on different websites. So you kind of want to know, well, okay, well, I'm advertising on Phoronix, for example, about some Linux type of service, but I'm also advertising on Reddit. Am I getting a higher return when I advertise on Phoronix versus Reddit? That kind of information is kind of useful as an advertiser, because if you're just seeing a spike of sales, you don't necessarily know which campaign has worked. You can't take decisions based on that, unfortunately. And it's very possible that particular spike of sale had nothing to do with your advertisement campaign. It just so happened there was like some content creator decided, hey, that product is great, and sent everybody on your website to purchase it, which now you have that skewed idea that your ads are actually worth something when they might not be.
Yeah, I think this perspective of they don't need any information whatsoever, I think that comes from people who have zero experience in this space. Like, from my perspective, right? Like, if I want to work with an advertiser, they're going to ask me things like, okay, what are your viewership like? How many conversions do you have in previous ad campaigns? Like, they're going to ask you this information and, like, whether similar things have been successful for you, because they want to know if it's even valuable in the first place to start a campaign with you, and then if they have a campaign with you, whether it's useful to continue going down that route and renew that contract. Because if you have a campaign, and let's say you're a channel that has 100,000 subscribers and they pay you lots of money, because you get paid lots of money as a YouTuber like that. People don't actually realize how much it is. Yeah. And you sell 10 products. They're gonna be like, okay, unless the margin on that is like crazy high and 10 products is really successful, it's very likely that has been a completely failed campaign, and they might offer you a contract again at a lower rate that's more suitable to what is being distributed there. Or they might say, well, clearly this audience is not interested in what our product is. We're going to move on to another space that potentially has a higher conversion rate.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if you look at YouTube ads, right? So in video advertisement where the content creator puts out an ad, usually the way that works is that you have a code that the person gets a little rebate or something, but you essentially go on a website. That's how they do their attribution. They know, because you entered Brody when you bought that product, well, now they know that, okay, well, we've got a conversion based on the advertisement that we paid for. And that kind of attribution is really important to take decisions. And yeah, you can't really run and you can't really advertise without knowing if you get a return on advertisement. And I understand, I hate advertisements as much as anybody else. But the reality is we wouldn't have YouTube without advertisements. We wouldn't have most websites and most news organizations without advertisements. So they do have some place in society, even if, quite frankly and personally, right now it's way too invasive. And there's nothing wrong for advertisers to know, okay, well, am I advertising to the right audience by looking at their attributions versus what is currently being done now, which is an advertiser saying, okay, well, I want to specifically target that 18 to 20-year-old who really is into K-pop, but also stamp collecting, and that lives in Waikagama, Nova Scotia, which is a tiny village. That's how pervasive the tracking and the targeting is right now. And that's a problem. And that's something we need to fix that. But just knowing, okay, well, did I have a return on my advertisement? That's not targeting. That's just receiving metrics to know, have I done a good investment?